I think the treasures of the trail are only revealed by sacrifice, and certainly a lot of us have sacrificed because of the weather.
They're longing and reaching out for something, and God comes down and touches their lives, their souls. It's happened here. It'll continue to happen all across the trail.
Someday this journey will be remembered as our legacy
west.
We made and broke the road from Nauvoo to the Great Salt Lake Valley. Some of the time we followed Indian trails, some of the time we ran by the compass. When we left the Missouri River, we followed the Platte, and we killed rattlesnakes by the cord in some places and made roads and built bridges till our backs ached. Where we could not build bridges across rivers, we ferried people across.
Despite the inconveniences of leaving work and home and family, despite the potential hardships and deprivation of being on the road for 3 months, still people from all walks of life have responded to the unique invitation of this wonderful trail. It's as if a hidden yearning to be a part of this slice of Americana has surfaced in their lives, and they have come willing to learn the lessons the trail teaches. Once on the train, it seems the most frequently asked question is, are you going all the way to the Salt Lake Valley? In this company that sometimes reaches 300 persons, 150 have committed to see this trail all the way to its end, including Christina Dickin from Plymouth, Washington. Don't smile, Christina, okay?
Vern Condi, a retired high school science teacher and itinerant minstrel, will ride and sing his way all the way to Salt Lake City.
Oh, yeah, several of them back in the 1850s especially. There were about 20-some odd of them that came across the ox teams and mule teams and horse teams, and some of them even walked in handcart companies.
Max Pitcher, a former president of Conoco Oil, follows in the footsteps of a great-great-grandmother who crossed the plains 150 years ago.
Well, I wanted to relive what my great-grandmother felt coming across the plains, and I certainly have more of appreciation for it right now than I did earlier. But they're not icons to us now. They're real people.
Barbara Sawyer answered the trail's invitation at the Liberty Pole and walked with the handcart company for 10 days, covering a distance of 150 miles.
I had started doing a lot of walking, and I was up to 6 miles a day just walking for my own pleasure, not knowing that I was really preparing for this journey.
Get around over here. Get over there. Get over in there.
Tennessee John, as he's affectionately called, is a professional mule skinner and travels 3,000 to 5,000 miles per year on a variety of historical American trails. But this is his first time on the Mormon Trail.
I'm just out here searching for something. I don't know what I'm looking for, but maybe I'll find it one of these days. It's here. It's not out in that concrete jungle. Now, I've never met any bad people on the trail, though. But these Mormon people, I don't know what it is about them there. They've got a lot of peace and serenity.
As I told you earlier, I think the treasures of the trail are only revealed by sacrifice, and certainly a lot of us have sacrificed because of the weather and are pulling together because of it.
I have discovered that it's hard, but yet it's so rewarding. You can be dead tired at the end of the day, and after a few minutes rest, you're talking and singing and playing instruments. The fatigue just leaves you, and you just feel uplifted again.
They don't peddle religion. They're not trying to sell you any bill of goods. They're providing an example for you to see, you know. It's more of a follow me, watch how I do. I'm setting a good example for you. Maybe you'd like to have some of this that I have, some of the peace and serenity and tranquility that these people have.
If it wasn't for one person, just one person, a 15-year-old married girl who put up with all of this, it's because of her that I exist and our whole family exists. So it's a pretty touching thing, frankly.
You don't know it unless you're out here, do you?
That's right. You have more of appreciation for the whole thing and for her. She could have said goodbye to it all. It wasn't easy for her.
You keeping a diary, Max?
I am. As I said, it only takes one person, you see? I don't want to put up with all this. I'm staying in Iowa or Nebraska or somewhere else, but she didn't.
I've seen some people change. They have seen the white elephant, as we call it sometimes. Some people call it God. It's a transformation that people make when they have spiritual intervention. You know, nothing else. They're longing and reaching out for something, and God comes down and touches their lives, their souls. It's happened here. It'll continue to happen all across the trail. Never been on a trail yet that it didn't happen.
I've been invited to go to Salt Lake City. I don't know, but I will be with them every step of the way. It will always be in my prayers. Thank you so much.
In mid-April of 1847, Brigham Young's Vanguard Company left the Platte River Valley and followed the natural westward leading Loup River. It would be a week's travel before they would make their way south again to the banks of the Platte. 150 years later, and following the same pattern, the reenactment team left Columbus, Nebraska on Monday morning, the 28th of April. Moving due west and following the Loup River for the next few days, they passed the cities of Genoa, Fullerton, and Palmer. And moving southwest and catching back up with the Platte, they passed through Chapman, and finally on the 3rd of May, they entered into the city of Grand Island.
The Mormons settled here in 1857, and when they settled here, they assumed it was open territory, but the government made Nance County an Indian reservation. And it just so happened they were about a mile inside the Indian reservation, and they had an agreement with the Pawnees that it was okay for them to stay here. But the Indian agent at the time was anti-Mormon, and he got the Indians pretty well stirred up, and they drove the Mormons off. So they were only here for 2 years.
As the wagon train passes from town to town, its presence creates a hunger for the true historical facts of each location. Conversations often include details of genealogical and historical discoveries, coupled with a renewed appreciation for the trail and its involvement in the establishment of the communities along its path.
Generally, our history books are printed out of like California and Texas, and so what we buy is just through that area. what I teach is not so much use the history books as a resource. And before this, we really didn't have access to all this literature. And like I said, Genoa was one of the first way stations for the Mormons. And even in our history books there at town, we didn't have this information.
Though many things have changed in the past 150 years, the weather has apparently remained a constant. Here at the camp near Fullerton, Nebraska, it poured 2 nights ago, with winds from 20 to 30 miles per hour. The temperatures dropped almost 40 degrees in the space of 24 hours. According to the journals of William Clayton, almost the exact same weather occurred at this time 150 years ago. He recorded that a cold north wind blew all day long, and that it grew so cold that the men wanted their coats on with a buffalo robe over the top of them. Clayton also added, having but one quilt for a covering, I suffered much from the cold.
It's freezing! The wind chill factor is incredible. And
body heat on my horse, keeping me warm.
Tell you, I got better shoes than the pioneers had. I got better food. I got a lighter load. I got better roads, and I'm about to pass out. Hard work today.
These are pictures of the ancestors that each of us are wearing. And they came across in the original trek.
And it tells about them on the back and what company they came with and how old they were.
All right.
So we're doing it in memory of them, in honor of them.
okay, no, we won't fit. Never mind.
Take a run for it. Where are we going?
I don't know. Do you want to go sleep in the barn?
Let me tell you, I'm so thankful for this barn. That was wonderful. We set up our tent in a stall because we're horses, you know.
Hey, use one hand.
It's great to stay up late.
We feel wet, but we have a hot hat. Warm hat. Warm hat.
Do you think the pioneers had a barn to sneak into?
It's warmer up here than it is down there, but a lot warmer. But everybody's freezing.
Hey! You cold in there?
Get up. Come on. Get up. Get up. Come on. Get up. Oh.
I've actually gained 10 pounds. They tell me it's all muscle. So when I weigh a couple 100 pounds more, everybody will go, whoa, she must have walked clear to Salt Lake. Look at those muscles.
I guess this is just a way to keep you humble. You can get a blister or two, I guess you wouldn't appreciate the pioneers as much.
I joined them way up there and I walked that far. So I could say I walked in the trek. See how far that is?
The grounds surrounding Grand Island's famous Stir Museum served as the camp's location. That weekend, nearly 7,000 people visited the museum site, taking in the festivities of the reenactment. Never before had such a crowd entered the museum gates.
And I had tears coming out of my eyes. A friend standing next to me said, Gail, you know, and I'm looking at him going, I'm fine. But I just got goosebumps when I saw it. And for me, I'm a very visual person, so to see in my mind, I didn't see the support vehicles and I didn't see all the modern stuff. I saw those people that went first. I too was one of those people that stood out in our swale that is located on our property and just stood there and felt the impact of those that went before me. I think it's remarkable. I do not term it as a ghost of those that came before me, but the energy of those people that walked that trail, that gave their lives, that lost their children, but yet continued to go forward and make a better place for themselves and those that came after them. You have to feel it. It's remarkable. If we don't know our heritage, we don't know who we are. Who came before us, formed who we are, what we do, why we do it. If you have no appreciation for your past, then I don't think you know who you are.
Having been taught to be a record-keeping people, there was no shortage of journals among these early settlers. They must have sensed they were leaving a legacy for generations yet to come, and took great care in recording details and feelings of their travels.
The sand seemed to get thicker and thicker as the rain and the wind blew harder and harder.
It was cold most of the day and quite discouraging. At noon we took our horses' temperature and it was 104 degrees.
We went through 3 miles of mud and deep sand. There were very few of us pulling the carts, and it felt at times that I was the only one pulling mine. By the time we took a break, some high school kids from Palmer had joined us to help pull. They were truly heaven sent.
Keeping a journal is a remarkable experience in life because we tend to forget. We tend to forget the little experiences of life, and we tend to forget who we interacted with, and we tend to forget the building blocks that build our character and that build our integrity and that build our work ethic. And when our grandchildren and great-grandchildren come along, they need to know what happened in their gene pool, what happened in their ethics of life to cause them to be what they're like. And without a journal, they miss a great part of that adventure.
A few days ago when we had our big 24-mile day through the rain and the mud, along about noon I was feeling rather tired. But after a good lunch and nourishment, I suddenly felt rejuvenated, and all afternoon I felt very strong. And I know that wasn't just me that did that. I know it was a result of all of the prayers and from people at home that said they would pray for me along the way.
Because of the lack of space, only the most prized possessions were carried across the plains. Likewise, nowadays, the space is limited. But John Lodefink, respecting the writings of early settlers, carries a pioneer journal.
This was a story of Anna Christina Peterson, and she is the great-great-grandmother of Rosalie Reed, a good friend of mine from work. And she felt so strongly about this story that she wanted me to take it across the same route that her great-great-grandmother took. I was born March 18th, 1856 in Copenhagen, Denmark. My parents left Copenhagen for Liverpool, England, early in the spring of 1857. Here a company of
544 saints, mostly Scandinavian, boarded the sailing vessel Westmoreland and put out to sea. Upon reaching Iowa City, a handcart was assigned to each family, and after loading our belongings, the next westward trek was begun. I, being so young, was permitted to ride a great deal of the time. The caravan reached Omaha about July 1st, 1860, where my mother became very ill, and the doctor said she would not live if she did not have her leg amputated. But her great faith carried her through without an operation. She had been promised she would see Salt Lake City. The family rested a short time for her to recuperate, and the rest of the company moved on. In the spring of 1861, our journey continued, but my mother was far from well. She had to ride most of the way, as did 3 of us children. It was at this time I became very ill and slipped into a coma, and in spite all that loving hands did for me, I was thought dead. Those in charge of the company thought it best not to stop for burial, which was common then with Indians on the warpath. So I was wrapped in a blanket and left by the roadside, hidden in some tall bushes. After camp was made that night, my mother, sensing that something was amiss, left camp under the cover of darkness in search of me. Despite her ill health, she walked throughout the night until she found the spot where I was left. Fortunately, for my sake, she was guided back to me and found me still breathing. Throughout the next day, she carried me back to the company, to my father, who had been anxiously searching for her. After loving hands cared for me and the elders administered to me, my health was restored and I was spared to come to Utah. There my childhood and girlhood was spent.
For some 600 miles, the Platte River served as a guide and a source of water for the pioneer companies. In some ways, though, it was sort of a necessary evil. Early references to the river describe it as being too thick to drink, too thin to plow, impossible to navigate, too yellow to wash in, and too pale to paint with. Such was the broad, sunken floodplain of the Platte.
Come, thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, fill my soul with loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Here's the mount, I'm fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming love. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness as a fetter bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it for thy courts above. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal